tough couple of years to be a Republican Party donor. People who give money to the Republican Party have learned the hard way in the last 2 years that their donations have paid for things like over $150,000 worth of clothes, hairstyling, and accessories for Sarah Palin and her family during the 2008 presidential campaign. Republican donations were also spent by Senator John Ensign to put his mistress's teenaged son on the Republican Party's payroll for something described as research policy consulting. I mentioned the kid was a teenager at the time, and that he got taken off the payroll once Senator Ensign stopped sleeping with his mom. Today, more news on what your donations go to when you give to today's Republican Party. The conservative website The Daily Caller published a story today on the Republican National Committee's spending disclosure records. In the last month alone, the RNC spent more than $17,000 of its donors' money on private planes, more than $12,000 on limousines, and over $15,000 at the Beverly Hills Hotel and the Beverly Hills Four Seasons. That's all in 1 month. But in these disclosures of what the Republican Party spent its donors' money on last month, what's getting the most attention is not the most expensive item on the list. What's getting the most attention is one line item from February 4th that's classified under meals. It's just under $2,000. It's at a place called Voyeur West Hollywood. And Voyeur West Hollywood it's kind of it's a naked lady place. In the words of the Daily Caller, it's a bondage-themed nightclub featuring topless women dancers imitating... Never mind. While Federal Election Commission filings confirm that the RNC spent nearly $2,000 in one night at the club in question, the RNC says it wasn't Chairman Michael Steele who personally was there. They say it was a political consultant named Eric Brown who expensed the trip to the strip club, telling The Hill, quote, "The chairman was never at the location in question. He had no knowledge of the expenditure, nor does he find the use of committee funds at such a location at all acceptable. Good reporting would make that distinction crystal clear. The committee has requested that the monies be returned to the committee and that the story be corrected so that it is accurate." In other words, the Republican Party's pushback on this story is not that they didn't spend almost $2,000 of Republican Party donors' money at a bondage strip club. Their pushback is that while the party may have spent almost $2,000 at a bondage strip club, Michael Steele personally didn't spend $2,000 at a bondage strip club. And yeah, they approved the Republican Party reimbursing someone's expenses for the bondage strip club, but now that a story has been written about it, they've changed their minds about approving that. Somehow, despite that incredibly persuasive defense, there are still Republican Party elders responding to this story by calling for Party Chairman Michael Steele's resignation. Bob Dole's former press secretary told the Huffington Post about this, quote, "No matter which side of the aisle you find yourself, if you are giving to a political party your hard-earned money, you should have no doubts that it is going to be spent as advertised and not to provide a spoiled, egocentric, out-of-touch chairman with frivolous luxuries which are out of reach of the vast majority of the American people." I don't know if it's frivolous. While it may seem tempting to fire up the Michael Steele resignation countdown clock right about now, it remains true that Michael Steele has survived so far. Michael Steele has survived day one of the Republican National Committee bondage strip club spending scandal. And assuming he keeps on surviving it, you can just add it to the list of remarkable things that have not resulted in the resignation of Michael Steele yet. Like the time he published a book that he billed as the blueprint Republicans should follow to win back power. He did this without telling any of the actual elected leaders of the Republican Party that he was writing this book. Then he went on a book tour to promote the book, all while supposedly also running the RNC. There was also the gracious manner with which he responded to the outcry over the book thing.
"I am in this chair. If they want it, take it from me. Until then, shut up, step back, or get in the game. I hope you play this tape over and over again because these folks are the problem. They're not the solution. Get with the program. I'm the chairman. Deal with it."
Then there was the scandal over Mr. Steele marketing himself for paid speeches around the country, even though what he's supposedly paid to do as RNC chairman is give speeches around the country. Or there was that time, not long after he became chairman, when he told the Washington Times of his plan to apply the party's principles to urban-suburban hip-hop settings. Or when early this year, about 11 months before Election Day, he said this about his own party's chances in the 2010 midterms.
Do you think he could take over the House? Do you think Republicans?
Not this year. And Sean, I'll say honestly.
You don't think so?
Well, I don't know yet because I don't know who all the candidates. We still have some vacancies that need to get filled. But then the question we need to ask ourselves is, if we do that, are we ready?
Are you?
Are we ready?
Question.
Are we ready?
Do you think they're ready?
I don't know.
The guy in charge of devising a winning strategy for his party, not only predicting they will fail in the elections, but saying he doesn't know if the party's really ready to win on the elections now anyway. But what better place to really get down to business and plan a new strategy for winning in the fall than the tropical paradise of Hawaii? That is where Mr. Steele scheduled the RNC's winter meeting this year, defending the move as not a cheap way to turn a working trip into a vacation, but rather as a clever plan to hold a meeting in Obama's backyard. And then, of course, Mr. Steele redesigned the party's website, which, when it was unveiled to much fanfare, included a page of future leaders that was blank. Also, it had a handy feature by which you could attach a GOP.com banner to any other website, like, say, sex.com, like we did, because we're incredibly immature. But if you're a Republican or a Republican donor, don't forget what Michael Steele says to people from his party who have the nerve to criticize him.
I tell them to get a life. I'm telling them, I'm looking them in the eye and say, I've had enough of it. If you don't want me in the job, fire me. But until then, shut up. Get with the program or get out of the way. Now, all I'm saying is cut it out. You don't see the Democrats running around, trying to beat up their national chairman or embarrass him.
Frankly, I have no idea how long Michael Steele has left as Republican Party chairman. But neither do you. None of us can understand this. This is so much bigger than any of us. Anyone who still has his job after all of those things I just described is obviously really, really good at one thing, indisputably. Really good at one thing. And that one thing is keeping this job. Joining us now is Anna Marie Cox, Washington correspondent for GQ magazine. Anna Marie, very nice to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you, Rachel.
Am I just being naive? Are major parties always spending their money on strip clubs? Is this normal?
Well, I don't know if they may be doing that, but they usually don't put that on an FEC filing. When I talk to people from both parties who have worked in national committees and also in state committees, the first thing I heard from everybody was, how did that wind up in an FEC report? That's supposed to get stopped. That's a very JV move to have it get all the way to an FEC report. So that'd be my first concern. But, Rachel, I have to tell you, in general, we are very fortunate. We are going to have Michael Steele to kick around for a while longer.
You think he's impermeable, that this stuff just rolls right off him?
Well, no, not necessarily. It's just that it's not a good time for him to step down. Also, he won't step down, as you can tell from those quotes that you played. And apparently, it's really difficult to get him out of there. To fire him requires something like 70 or 80 members of the delegation, the national committee, to call for a special session and then to call for a vote of no confidence on him. And that's probably not going to happen. In part because people want this to go away. The GOP has enough problems right now. I believe you've covered some of them. And I think that also, why get rid of him now when there's probably going to be a really convenient time to get rid of him in November?
Well, but if you look at the way these scandals have unfolded, I mean, the last couple in particular, it really seems like information's being leaked by people inside the party to conservative news outlets. I mean, the last two big Michael Steele scandals have been Tucker Carlson's website and the Washington Times, which is a super conservative paper in Washington. So it seems like they're trying to force him out without doing it out in the open, doesn't it?
I guess I would draw a distinction between conservative publications and Republican publications.
Okay.
Both the Daily Caller and the Washington Times, I'd say, are proudly conservative, although Tucker Carlson himself, is your friend and mine, is more libertarian bent, but his publication has tended to be on the right side of things. But it's right now a very cool thing to be a conservative who's against the Republican Party, and I think there might be some of that going on right now. The Republican Party itself is not popular with anyone,